Good morning. We are very lucky today to have a guest speaker, Mr. Marsh, who last program that the freshmen came to was great. This is the best program for Black History Month that I think we have ever had. So you guys are, this is something that you can look forward to in the next hour or so. Kenley is going to be reading, listen guys, Kenley is going to be reading Mr. Marsh's bio. We just met him last week at a conference at Rider University, and he was nice enough to give up his time today to come here and speak to you guys about his story. We also have a special surprise that I'll hold, someone from our staff that is going to come up and speak to you. So Kenley will introduce Mr. Marsh.
There are many characteristics that has been used to describe our kinetic speaker. Determination, drive, ambitious, motivation, energetic, spirited, and resolve are limited. So, yeah.
He's a little nervous, it's okay. Okay, this is Mr. Marsh's bio. There are many characteristics that have been used to describe our keynote speaker: determined, driven, ambitious, motivated, energetic, inspiring, and resolved are all accurate. So is compassionate, kind, brave, and patriotic. But there is one trait simply outshines all others: humble. Born in South Carolina and raised by an illiterate foster mother, Mr. Marsh grew up in an era of segregation as the oldest of 13 foster children. Throughout his childhood and teenage years, he endured racism, the Ku Klux Klan, and name-calling for the color of his skin. In 1965, he became the first African-American student to integrate into an all-white school in Lancaster, South Carolina. Surviving was the word of the day, of each day in the South, Mr. Marsh recalls. And I understood this because I was Black, poor, and uneducated. I had no knowledge of what I wanted to become in life. All I wanted to be is to be free from poverty and racism. Reflecting on his youth, Mr. Marsh says, "My foster mother gave me a strong foundation and structured me to conduct myself with positive values. She taught me how to be a man in a challenging world." After high school, Mr. Marsh enlisted in the Army to escape the negative environment that was destroying him. He served a tour of duty during the Vietnam War with the 101st Airborne Division. In Vietnam, my life unfolded as a soldier. Despite the poverty and racism I had endured during my childhood, the jungle is where I really had to learn to survive. Although Mr. Marsh earned 3 distinguished military medals, the Bronze Star for Valor in Combat, the U.S. Army Medal, and the Vietnam Veteran Medal, returning home in 1970 brought about another set of challenges. When I returned home, my dignity as an African American and as a soldier was denied because of continued racism, discrimination, and political controversy over the war. I became a homeless veteran, unable to secure employment.
Skylar Capiello, please report to the main office. You have an item to pick up.
I realized I wanted more out of life, so I began my long journey to complete my education, remembering always that my foster mother could not read or write. In 2014, Mr. Marsh received his Bachelor of Arts from Rider University and delivered the commencement address. He is pursuing his master's degree in clinical mental health at Rider University. On August 6, 2015, he was selected to serve on the New Jersey Supreme Court Code of Ethics Advisory Board. In addition, he serves as on the Mid-Jersey Regional Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and is the first vice chair of Mercer County Community College Foundation Board. The importance of having an education was real for me, and I set out on a journey that would eventually lead me to become the individual that I am today. Okay, so Kenley would like to say a few words, but we are going to introduce Mr. Marsh to come up and speak. Again, he gave up his time to come here and speak to you guys, so I'm sure all of you are going to listen and be on your very best behavior.
Okay, so after, I guess last year, Mr. Marsh gave actually a really wonderful speech, and after he was done, I went up to him and I talked to him and I asked him, you went through all this struggle, you went through all those things, how'd you get through it? And he simply told me it was because of God. And then, and I asked him, because of God, how? And I asked him, how are you able to still be able to praise and thank God every day when every day you're struggling, you are basically in discomfort? And he told me I just had to drive that. My family, my friends, I did it for them, I did it for God, and it was wonderful. And that helped me realize that, yes, God didn't promise us peace and safety every day, but he did promise us he was going to comfort us every day. That's what helped me realize.
Good morning. Let me repeat that. Good morning. It's an honor for me to be here with you today, Friday, February 26, 2016. I realize that we are closing out the month of February, month that we have designated as Black History Month. As I indicated earlier, Black History Month is American history. Black history is American history. Black history is not just Black history is not only is celebrated during February, but I celebrate Black History Month 365 days of every day of every year of my life. It's truly an honor for me to be here this morning, and I cannot thank Nottingham High School enough for this opportunity to come and share with you this morning. I am truly humble, but I'm truly blessed, but an opportunity for me to stand before you. I'm inspired by you, the young people that are here today. You are the gateway of the 21st century. You are the leaders who can take this country to a whole new level. Being inspired, being educated, and being exposed, and beginning to understand that we are in this together as a people. Yes, during the 1960s, as a young Black male, grew up in South Carolina during the time of segregation, racism, and riots in South Carolina. I was considered less than. I was considered not even being a human because of the color of my skin. I grew up in a foster home with 13 children, being the oldest male child. There was no father figure in my home. I assumed those duties as I became older. As a young man, we were poor. There was no income. My foster mother was not employed. She did day work. She ironed, washed, clothes, white help for white families who paid on minimum wage or no wage at all. We lived from pillar to post. I picked cotton as a young man in South Carolina to supplement income for my mother so that we could have breakfast food on Sunday morning, eggs, bacon, grits.
Sausage.
Those southern characteristics that many of you may not be aware of, but those were the items that we had to eat during those times. As a young Black man, I can tell you that my experience of segregation ran deep in terms of society that I lived in. I could not attend integrated schools. There were some schools of whites and blacks. The school that I attended was in a predominantly Black neighborhood. The books that we received came from white students the year before. There was damaged books, poor books, discarded books, used books, books nobody wanted. Those are the books that African American students received in South Carolina. There are many times that I wore patches on my pants and shirts and jackets because we could not afford to buy clothes. There were times when I had to put cardboard and newspapers in the bottom of my shoes to keep my feet from touching the ground. There were times when I didn't have food to eat, on the basic of what my mother could find or someone would donate to us as a family. Segregation for me in the South was such a case that African Americans could not drink from water fountains, could not eat in restaurants, couldn't go to schools, couldn't ride on public transportation, couldn't use public bathrooms. Those were the conditions that I experienced as a young black man in South Carolina. 1965 is when I embarked upon becoming the first African American to integrate an all-white high school in Lancaster, South Carolina. 1965, I was determined that I was going to take control of my own destiny and not be denied because I felt that I deserved more in life. Poor, black, uneducated, I decided to integrate Lancaster Senior High School and became the first African American to do so. During that particular time period, the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, burned across in my mother's front yard for the purpose of intimidation and to intimidate me not to come back to all-white high school. The cloud that hung over my community was heartfelt because of the fact of the bitter and hatred that ran deep in South Carolina. I remained out of school for about 3 weeks and returned later and found that my presence in this high school was not wanted. I was spit upon, the name calling, the N-word. My books were torn, my clothes was cut, and I was rejected because of the color of my skin. I stayed at the high school, continued to go to the high school until I graduated in 1967. I graduated at the bottom of my class. I glad bottom of my class, which is the last student, poor, black, and uneducated. I realized that at that point my life had come to an end because there was no future for me. Growing up in South Carolina during the time of segregation, Jim Crow, and all of the conditions that I was experiencing through the race riots in South Carolina, I had to endure. So, I left one plantation, which is South Carolina, and I joined the military, which is another plantation within itself, to escape poverty and racism. But it wasn't long that I realized that racism was also in the military. Yes, I did serve 2 in Vietnam. Yes, I became paratrooper because I wanted to be the best that I could be. I made 16 parachute jumps in Vietnam. I was in combat in several missions. And when I came home from Vietnam with my medals on my chest and my boots shine, feeling proud that I had distinguished myself as an African American who volunteered to serve and defend the United States of America, I came back home lost and despair and rejected again because of color of my skin. I was homeless for about 2.5 years, and I say the word homeless. I did not have a home to go to. I had no job. I was unemployed. I had no job to, no one wanted to hire me because of my color of my skin. Even though I had served my country distinguishedly and also received the Bronze Star Medal for Valor in 2 combat missions that I was in. No one would hire me for a job. So in doing so, I realized that my education, which I had acquired, was very minimal, to a point that I was reading maybe on the 5th or 6th grade level after I came back from Vietnam. But I realized that there was a fact in my life that was missing. And the component that I realized that my foster mother, who could not read or write, inspired me to become the man that I am today. In doing so, I set out to change the course of time. If left up to the pundits, I would have been a failure, and I would not become a statistic in what I have been able to achieve today because of the fact that I was determined not to allow anyone to put their foot on my neck and hold me down. I rejected any negativity that may have come up because I believed that I had the power to change. And in doing so, I persevered, I changed my attitude, I began to seek my weaknesses and determine how can I manifest, how can I change these conditions, that I would become a person that I can not only be respected, but respect others. You as young people are the gateway to the 21st century. You are the people, you are the individuals who are going to set the stage for future leaders. You have the power in your hands to change the world. And in doing so, the most precious commodity that you can obtain is education. Without a doubt, there is no substitute for it. There is no excuse. There's nothing more valuable than having an opportunity to attend school, gain knowledge, and take it to transfer into a being of being not only internally but externally to factors that can make you successful in life. Realizing that I could not read and write, limited education, I began to search out means and ways that could help me change the way that I was. I began to understand the fact that I could not read and write. I began to understand that I could not communicate. I began to realize there was other factors that I need to obtain to order to be successful. Lo and behold, I continued a pathway. I found my own construction management company in 1998, having worked through corporate America for 20 some odd years, building projects throughout the universe, throughout the country. Last but not least, my firm was selected as the construction manager for the renovation of the Statue of Liberty in 2011. I am the first African-American company to be selected to oversee the renovation of a $35 million renovation of the Statue of Liberty, and that is the truth. In addition, my concept and ideas about my life and fulfillment that I desired set me on the stage of one piece of component which was missing internally, was obtaining a college degree. Yes, I built a successful company. I expanded, I've been to the White House twice. I met with Vice President Joe Biden. I had lunch with President Obama. I spoke at the National Congress of Black Congressmen. I've been so far involved in opportunities you could never imagine that here's this young man who lived in South Carolina, who picked cotton, now has been selected to serve on the New Jersey State Supreme Court Ethics Committee. That is powerful. That is a point where you can say to yourself, how did you do this? I wanted to say to you this morning, it's not who I see, but who sees me. How do they see me? How do they understand that Eugene brings value? Eugene brings integrity. He brings principles, he brings morals, he brings conditions that sets the stage that when you step out in the world, that everyone sees who you are. Everyone has a face, and that face is yours to permeate with people that know who and what and how you have made a difference. I realized the more important thing for me in life was to obtain a college degree, and I did so. Perseverance, the young man just introduced me a few minutes ago, determination, and attitude. Boy, I have a serious attitude about education. is a serious one that you can never duplicate. Why? Because I realize today that I would not be standing here if it wasn't for the point of opportunity that has been opened to me by many of those who saw my heart and my head. As I wrestle with the concept of many of you may be concerned about, why is it that we have to be able to confront ourselves and deal with diversity and deal with conditions that we sometimes don't want to talk about? Well, I want to tell you that I'm not afraid to talk about diversity. I'm not afraid to talk about the fact that N-word that I hear used each and every day among hip-hop and individuals as a way of greeting and saying to each other, it's not a word that I accept. Because when I hear the N-word, when I hear the word, I get very angry. I get very upset. Because if you understood what the word meant and how it was used in the 1960s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even today, that word should be a part where you say, that word is totally unacceptable. Because it's a label that can based upon you to denote you are less than. And when it was used towards me as an African American in South Carolina, I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask, why am I being labeled? Why am I given this terminology, which I have no understanding of the fact is a term that came out of slavery. The term that came out of white masters who owned plantations and labeled African Americans and Africans the N-word. That N-word was a condition of saying you are nothing. You will never become anything. Stay where you are. This is the way you should be. And I refuse to accept that label because that is not who I am, nor will I ever will be. Because of my drive and determination to raise myself up from the pits and from the bowels of those who wanted me to be less than what I could be or should be, profoundly, I changed the attitude that I was going to take my own destiny in my own control and control it in my own manner. No one controls my destiny. No one can determine my future. Only you can control your future. Only you can make that decision as who you are and whose you are, because that is a fact of life. I remember as a young man, many times wondering, sometimes crying, why me? And then I asked the question, why not you? Because I believe that my life has been set apart for destiny to overcome obstacles. And I've been doing so for the last 30, 40, 50 years on a path that I see nothing but opportunities. When I was selected as the commencement speaker at the Rider University in 2014, it set the stage for believing the impossible for the possibilities of what life could be. Without a doubt in my mind, Black History Month is a month that's closing out in 2 days. But it's a month that should resonate with you because diversity here today is a powerful component that can impact the world. Together, as students, you can become the most pressing force in change. But you also must begin to accept who you are. Your identity is important because it tells you that you are special. Do not judge a person by the color of his skin. Do not demean someone because of sexuality or their ethnicity or whatever the case may be. That's not important. The important part about this arena today is what are you going to do to change the world and how? I indicated that education is invaluable. You cannot put a price on it. No one can. No one. It's up to you to graduate from high school. It's up to you to set the stage that I am going to finish high school, and you will. You set the stage whether or not you're going to go to community college or a four-year institution, you will. You plan your future as to how you're going to outline yourself for progress and success to attain your goals. Last but not least, do not allow anyone or anything to discourage you from your dreams. As a young black man growing up in South Carolina, I never imagined of the possibilities that will come to me today. Countless opportunities, but I continue to be on the path of believing anything's possible. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. And in closing, one of my greatest person I can remember, and he passed away, was late Nelson Mandela. And in doing so, I used his quote in my commencement speech, and I'm using it today because I think it's important. Education is the most powerful weapon that should and could be used to change the world. You have the power to change the world. Thank you and God bless.
All right, let's say thank you again to Mr. Marsh. We met him just a week ago today when we were at Rider, and I asked him to come and speak, and he was nice enough to give up his time to come and speak to you guys. I hope you guys think about what he had to say. We have somebody else who was on our staff who is going to come up and speak to you for a few minutes, who went through some similar things as Mr. Marsh did. Miss Matlack is going to come up and speak to you.
Good morning. The reason I am up here is because Mr. Marsh's life and my life have paralleled. Although we were in two different areas, pretty much close time-wise. I'm a little older than he is, if you hadn't noticed. But in 1962, my school, the high school that I attended, was integrated. I was one of the first black students that had to attend that school. When I went to the school, some of the classes, I was given a chair without a desk, sitting next to a blackboard. Another classroom, I had a desk, but I was still next to the side blackboard, not in the classroom, so to speak, with the rest of the students. I was a classical musician. I played the viola. They did not want me in the orchestra because I would have to sit next to and share a stand with a white student because there were no other black students in the orchestra. What they didn't think about was the fact that they didn't have any other violists in the school. I was the only one. So I didn't have to share a stand with anybody. But it took my father coming up to school to get them to put me into the orchestra. I was the first and the last person in that school to audition for and be accepted in the Old City Orchestra. I had already played with the Queen's Allborough Orchestra. And the orchestras that I did play with, I played on stage at Lincoln Center and on stage at Carnegie Hall with orchestras. Our lives paralleled in another area, and that is that my mom was a foster mother. She was my biological parent, but over a period of time, she took in 47 foster children. So I am so used to being around children of all different ages and diversities and cultures. I love my life growing up. I, in this school, have spoken to many of you about the importance of education and how education can change what you're doing. I've also spoken to you about the use of the N-word. Both of those things at times seem to fall on deaf ears because you don't understand yet how important education is. You're coming to school every day, but are you learning? The things that you were getting and that you were hearing and the books that you're reading, you remember just for that point. You don't remember it next week. That education means that you're putting things into your head and you're remembering them so that you can draw on them later on in life. Like Mr. Marsh and myself. We worked very hard to get to where we are with a lot of hate, with a lot of prejudice, with a lot of people that did not want us to succeed. In the same high school I attended, there was a teacher that decided to go around the class and tell everybody how they would do by the end of the year. Oh, you'll get an A, you'll get a B, you'll get a C. Looked at me and pointed and said, and you will fail. And I looked at him and said, no, I won't. My last piece that I'd like to say, Mr. Marsh talked to you about the N-word. I'm from that era. When I was called the N-word, it wasn't the way you think you're using it now. Every time I hear it in the hallways, it hurts. I have spoken to people and told them that. Ask your grandparents, ask your great-grandparents if they think that that's a nice word. And I hear everybody using it. And to me, it should not be used by blacks, by whites, by Hispanics, by old, by young, by anybody. It needs to disappear.
How about one more nice round of applause for Ms. Matlack? All right, this time we're going to bring up your very own Nottingham High School STEP team.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to show you how STEP has changed throughout the years. In case you guys didn't already know, STEP is an instrument using your hands and your feet to create something bigger. You can see different types of STEP at different points in Black history. It has become a big part of the Black culture. Now we will present to you the evolution of STEP.
The Gumboots dance has a history based in African roots. It began when laborers went to work at the gold mines of South Africa. The boots were worn to protect themselves from knee-deep water in the mines. Here's a modified version of the gumboot dance.
This dance was created as a form of communication and for entertainment while at work.
Let's go to work.
During limited free time, particularly on Sundays, slaves engaged in singing and dancing. One dance is called Hambone or Paddy Juba. It originated in West Africa and was often used by African slaves when no drums were allowed. It consists of clapping hands in a complex and rhythmic fashion.
Juba, Juba up, Juba down, The military cadence was developed during the Revolutionary War. It was created as a way to communicate between soldiers and the person in charge of giving orders. Often during STEP, you can hear and see the influence of military cadence in a performance that actually stems back to the marches in World War II.
At colleges in the early 1900s, when fraternities and sororities used it to support and cheer on their particular house. There are 9 fraternities and sororities that each have specific movements and chants that they alone use. Today, we will be representing 6 of them.
Black History Month is an annual celebration of the accomplishments of the African American community. Rosa Parks, she sat on that bus faithfully. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he marched through Alabama honorably. And Harriet Tubman, she helped save those slaves thoughtfully. You see, the African American community have been accomplishing great things since the utterance of the Emancipation Proclamation to Obama's inauguration speech. But you see, Black History Month is not about reliving the past. It's not about reattaching chains of bondage. It's about remembering that the legends of the past are only stepping stones upon which we must continue a legacy.